Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Cook Inlet Tug and Barge is a marine transportation company specializing in harbor services with a primary marketing focus on the Port of Anchorage, providing their customers with quality-based service specifically tailored to their needs.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting tonight's show. On the advisory chart here, starting off over the southeast coast, this area is expecting fog to develop tonight, this evening into tonight, some of which will be dense, so dense fog advisories are out for these areas for tonight and continuing through the day tomorrow here in a lot of the areas here along the southeast coast up into the Yakutat area. The yellow area there, that's a flood or a flash flood watch, which is out for the Keystone Canyon area of the northeast part of Prince William Sound. Keystone Canyon to milepost 5 of the Richardson Highway. That's out until 10 p.m. tonight due to snow slides, avalanches, blocking streams, backing them up, and so that could break and then cause a flash flood depending on how much water gets backed up or released. That's a possibility. That's why it's a watch, not a warning, just that possibility of that happening. Up to the north, still freezing rain advisory out here for the eastern Alaska range there, as well as up across the Yukon, the eastern areas, 40-mile country. That's out until 5 a.m. tomorrow up in this area, and also freezing rain advisories out up to the north for this evening, and actually these will be ending this evening. This one's out overnight tonight up for the eastern Brooks Range areas, and winter weather advisories back along the Arctic coast. Visibility's down pretty good this afternoon, gusty northeast winds 15 to 30 miles an hour there with the snow. Reported heavy at times at Wainwright. It was nearly a whiteout condition in that area with those gusty winds and the snow. Temperatures well below freezing yet there. And then freezing rain advisories back into the Noatak Valley areas here tonight. It was just rain falling along the coast this afternoon. And then the advisories have ended farther down to the south. And taking a look here across the Bering Sea in the southwest interior, no advisories out. In fact, a pretty nice day today from Unalaska up across the Cold Bay area on into Kodiak Island, well as areas of Bristol Bay, mild 40s, just some southeast winds kicking up, but very nice conditions there. And again, no warnings or advisories out for these areas. And looking at the next graphic here, source of the warm and wet weather, this showing the southeast Pacific here. Again, there's China over there, Australia here, and this the southeast islands, the islands of the southwest Pacific, and Philippines right there. This area here covering, just for to put it into proportion here, a huge area convection occurring here over this part of the ocean back into the west there toward Jakarta, Java, and those areas. And this moisture being thrown into the atmosphere, and you can see the jet picking it up here, wrapping that up into this system, which is well to the south of the Aleutians, but that's been continuing east and then getting caught up in the jet that's been due southerly jet from about 28, 30 degrees north, and then heading right up into Alaska over the last several days, or for the last week since about the 14th, and that extending all the way up just about into the Arctic. And this sort of pattern here continuing, and usually it's about half this size of convection out here, and even if it was half the size, it'd still be considered pretty active. So very active conditions going on, and expected to continue for at least a while longer. Yesterday showing the moisture fetch here coming from off the map, again extending back down south of 30 north, which puts it about northern Mexico latitudes, coming northward, south to north, and of course that brought heavy rains in over the last 24 hours into the North Gulf Coast. Cordova, in the last 24 hours, ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon, picked up 4.65 inches of rain, and Valdez seeing over 3 inches, a little over 3 inches in that same 24-hour period. So very heavy rains occurring along the North Gulf Coast. Seward, 1.51 inches, and that area extended up into Gulkana and the Copper River Valley up there with again, Glen Allen, Gulkana picking up 0.8 of an inch of rainfall there, and not so much in the way of moisture up here to the north. Gusty winds gusted as high as 70 miles an hour at Delta Junction, but those have gone calm just about, dropped off considerably. And then the rainfall occurring over northern Cook Inlet here with this front, the jet stream south to north this morning is analyzed south 130 knots, and that just edged eastward far enough to allow some clearing to move in late this morning. And the main rainfall area has pushed back to the east. Pretty good swath of fair weather right through here into the southeast Bering Sea. And then this batch of moisture pushing up to the northwest, bringing the snow and blowing snow, but very mild conditions again. Rainfall and temperatures above freezing right up into Kotzebue, Kivalina. Seeing rain this afternoon as well as Nome. And then back here to the west, snow and blowing snow around the Pribilof Island areas, and some scattered snow showers here over the southeast Bering, mostly north of the eastern Aleutians. But this whole pattern here is pulling back to the north and west. Run the loop again, and you can see it lifting northward here. So this band already showing signs of pushing back in toward Kodiak, and that's going to spread some more rain into the island there tonight. Already seeing the clouds increase this afternoon, and this will be coming back across south central Alaska tonight as the winds development right here. You can see the outer edge of the storm system there. That's pushing eastward, and that's going to turn those winds aloft more southeasterly. So we're going to lose the south to north flow here. They'll become southeasterly. So that's going to push this band back through us this evening, and it won't stall out. It should continue off to the northwest through tomorrow, and by tomorrow afternoon should be over in this area. So just a shot of some moisture coming in overnight tonight. Of course, this evening starting at any time here, Kodiak Island, and that'll swing back up across south central Alaska tonight and cross the mountains and head out to the west tomorrow. Otherwise, the very cold air out here over Shimya, back to the west toward Kamchatka Peninsula, and just some scattered snow showers. Actually, it looked like a fair amount of sunshine, again, from King Salmon, Kodiak, across the peninsula, all the way out to Adak and Atka this afternoon, and a few more snow showers towards the Shimya area. This morning at 9 o'clock, we had the low center here, southwest of Nunivak Island, and the frontal position roughly in this location here, right down across northern Cook Inlet. Again, edged eastward a little bit here, but you can already see the warm front beginning to develop, becoming stationary here as those southeast winds begin to push northward, and that already going on there. Clouds back in over Kodiak Island, and soon followed by the rain, and that whole pattern will push back to the north. And then the very tight gradient here in advance of the front with those winds up to 40 miles an hour through the Copper River Valley today. And again, the winds gusting upwards of 70 miles an hour over Delta Junction. But as the front went through, those dropped off drastically down to about 4 or 5 miles an hour now. High pressure holding on to the southeast coast there, with some patchy areas of fog starting to show up, but that'll form a little quicker this evening and overnight with the light winds and clearing skies and the still warm air aloft. That leads to perfect conditions for dense fog to form, and hence the dense fog advisories out for this whole area. And that'll start up tonight again. So that means areas IFR here along the southeast coast. Good southwest or southeast wind flow again is going to push that frontal boundary back in across the areas of warm front tonight. So rain, Kodiak Island, up into the interior, some areas of light rain and snow possible over the Copper River Basin areas, and freezing rain up here along the Brooks Range this evening, overnight tonight, but drying out here through the central interior. And then gusty winds and rain mostly on the southeast side of the Aleutian Range here. Some sprinkles could work into the northeast Bristol Bay area, definitely up along the east slopes of the western Alaska Ranges. And then some snow and blowing snow continuing along mostly Cape Lisburne to Point Hope, and then right down into the Bering Strait, maybe St. Lawrence Island, but nothing too serious out here, but enough to keep the winter weather advisories up along the western Arctic coast. And then the freezing rain advisories continue tonight into tomorrow morning for the Brooks Range. And this front kind of stalled out there across the southeast Bering with the low center here southwest of St. Lawrence Island. And then that cold front keeping the snow showers going possibly there, but nothing too serious over the eastern Aleutians, and pretty dry. And then you get into some more snow shower activity out farther to the west. And then for tomorrow, that gets pushed back to the west a little bit. So warmer conditions means a mixture of precipitation. What does fall will be in the form of rain or rain and snow mixed. Any snow down to sea level will probably only occur at Nikolsky and on to the west there. And the frontal boundary here having, again, the warm front now back out to the west coast tomorrow, followed by high pressure, light winds. So some areas will see kind of foggy, cloudy conditions persisting into the afternoon. Other areas will see a fair amount of sunshine with light winds. Don't expect it to clear out along the coastline too much here with that still southeast wind flow there, but areas of southeast coast will see some clearing. Other areas will stay fogged in or socked in places there with those dense fog advisories out. Dry here over the eastern interior. Again, some patchy low stuff developing even over the inland areas here where the winds become light. And not too bad up there along the Arctic coast. Looks like pretty dry conditions, a little gusty on the winds on the central and east side, lighter winds to the west. Then on Sunday, actually Saturday night, it looks like another batch of moisture comes up to the northwest with a frontal boundary right about in this position Sunday afternoon. So looks like more rain coming up to the North Gulf Coast overnight tomorrow night, with, again, the winds picking up a little bit here, and rain mostly western Prince William Sound. Of course, Kodiak Island, you'll be back into it again tomorrow night. May not see much of a break at all, but southeast winds keeping the temperatures mild here over all of the southeast interior, again with maybe some hit and miss rain and snow showers, more miss than hit here. Kind of gusty on the winds, looks like maybe gusts 45 miles an hour possible there along the coast as this low pressure area elongates back to the north and east, and this front will spread rain and fog, or rain or snow here back up into the Seward Peninsula, so conditions staying quite mild. And another one farther down to the south there, kind of questionable where that system will end up going. But again, we're looking at areas of fog with dry conditions here over the eastern interior, right back down the southeast coast. Maybe a little bit more of a breeze for less fog on Sunday there for the Panhandle. More snow showers, gusty northwest winds out over the Aleutians. Temperatures this afternoon up to 50 degrees in Homer this afternoon at 4 p.m. These are all 4 p.m. readings. 43 at Middleton Island, 42 Cordova, and upper 30s, lower 40s, most areas of the southeast coast, lower to mid 40s here over the south central areas, Anchorage up into the Sitna Valley. Actually, some locations reaching the upper 40s, 34 at Gulkana, and mild 46 Delta Junction there with some clearing this afternoon. Winds going just about light up in that area. Temperature 33 at Fairbanks, and the park entrance at 44. And teens and 20s up here over the northeast interior to 31 at Bettles up there. And they picked up about a third of an inch of rain that fell in wintry mix, meaning snow and freezing rain at times there, but a fair amount of moisture, again, that all riding northward on those southerly winds. Arctic coast right around 0, 3 below at Atusuk, with the snow and blowing snow to -2 over at Dead Horse, 1 above at Barrow, but much milder here as you cross the mountains. Mid to upper 30s across the northwest interior out to the coast, about the same here over the Yukon Delta areas, and 43 Holy Cross, one of the warmer locations, 36 at Cape Newenham. Lower 40s, very mild day, although windy there over portions of Bristol Bay. And in the 30s, in cases low 30s, or right at 30 for Adak. For the lows tonight, a little below zero up over the north slope and Arctic coast, but not too bad. Dropping back into the 20s here over the northwest areas, as well as down to about Bethel. Staying in the 30s, though, under continued mild southeasterly winds over the southwest interior to near 40 Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast areas. A little bit cooler over the Aleutians, back into the 20s again for the Aleutians. And for the highs tomorrow, for the Aleutians, mid to upper 30s out there, 20s here over the Bering Strait area, St. Lawrence Island, teens from the northeast interior, and running about 5 to 15 up along the Arctic coast for the coolest areas, but 40s again, possibly getting up into the Alaska Range areas, but just staying in the 30s for the Tanana Valley, and upper 30s to upper 40s there for the southeast coast. Flying weather, again, areas of IFR, lowest conditions here, especially over the eastern interior, will be early in the day. Could be some IFR to start the day out here over the southeast interior, but gradually improving all these areas throughout the afternoon, but getting a little persistent here, east or western Prince William Sound down along the coast. Swath IFR out here to the southwest, Anaktuvuk, marginal becoming VFR. Improvement for all these passes throughout the day tomorrow, starting out lowest and then improving lowest conditions on the eastern entrances, VFR on the west side of the Alaska Range. Isabel, same forecast, improvement throughout the day, lowest conditions in the morning, becoming VFR in the afternoon for Tanita. Portage, gradual improvement, but probably staying marginal throughout the day. Chilkoot and White VFR. Warm air aloft all the way up through the eastern interior, 2,000 feet up there into the Arctic, and then the cold stuff back here to the west over the Bering Sea with at the surface way down to the south. Icing possible here from the southwest interior across Bristol Bay, and then more of a mixed icing conditions where it's a little more unstable out over the Bering Sea areas. Winds aloft tomorrow showing high pressure, and the main jet now backing out toward the west coast at about 100 knots, while 9,000 feet, 35 to 55 knot winds. Again, more southeasterly, even at 3,000 feet, 40 to 50 knot winds. So some severe turbulence tomorrow possible right across Kodiak Island, in across Kamishak Bay, Iliamna Lake, and possibly even out here, Cape Sarachev too on Alaska. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Good evening. I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, welcome to Hangar Flying. Our guest this evening is Robin Cornfield. Many of you in Anchorage and around the state know Robin. She's originally from Kayena, which we'll talk about in a moment. Aviation's been a big part of her life, and she got her private pilot's license in her early 20s. She's also the wife of Ed Cornfield, who appears frequently as a host on this very program, Hangar Flying. Robin, welcome to Hangar Flying.
Thank you.
I'd like to start by having you explain a little bit about your early life in Kayena and the part aviation played.
Okay. Kayena is one of the villages outside of Kotzebue, up on the Kobuk River. And my family owns a trading post there called Blankenship Trading Post. And it was started by my grandfather, whose name was Walter Blankenship. And it's kind of about the mail service, and it's about the early aviators to that area. And my grandfather had been a tugboat pilot, and he had the job of delivering mail up and down the river only one time for every summer. And so people would only receive mail maybe once over 4 months. And then in the winter, it was delivered by dog team, maybe once a month. And so when aviation came in, and eventually some of these aviators won the mail contract, it would start coming twice a week. And I was talking to my mother about, what that was like, because she grew up there, and she just said these pilots were, exciting, and they gave access to the rest of the world, and they came with news and, information, and they were so, they became friends. They stopped by, Kayena is about 60 miles from Kotzebue. And Kotzebue is a place where, especially in the spring and the fall, there's these big fog banks that come in, and sometimes you can't get in there. And in those days, of course, they didn't have the nav aids that they have today. And so these pilots would stop and sometimes stay for days. And she remembered and recalled Sig Ween stopping by and playing pickup sticks with she and her sister, and that sort of thing. A lot of that was before my time, but our store had the post office attached to it. And my cousin, or my mother's cousin, Rob Blankenship, became the postmaster in this little village, and he always met the mail plane. And so it became part of my lifestyle growing up to be listening at all times for a plane flying over, because when it did, I and my siblings would jump in our Jeep, and we'd go up to the airport along with half of the town to see who it was that was coming off of the plane and to pick up the mail.
Well, that's fascinating. What a real bit of Alaska history. So, the stories, do you recall any favorite stories that these pilots might have shared, or specific situations that might be worth relaying to our audience?
Well, I don't know specific stories. I remember specific people, I think. John Cross, the famous bush pilot out of Kotzebue, and Tommy Richards. Those people, at that time you'd use the landing field or maybe land on floats in the river. Some of the Norsemen and just those kinds of planes were used to serve the villages. My mother talked about it used to be possible to land on the river, across the river on a gravel bar, and that was interesting to me because there's no gravel bar there today. So wow. They would have had to land somewhere else if that had happened today. But they would, they would stop usually because of the weather and not continue their flights, and they would stay at our house, and we would offer them coffee and tea. And I remember pilots, not just the male pilots, but like Gene Joyner, who owned a jade mine up the river, would stop by, and he would give my mother a blank check and a burlap bag, and she was supposed to put cans of food in this burlap bag and fill in the check with whatever amount it cost. And he would sit in the corner of our living room and talk about other places in the world that he'd been. And he was the member of some club called the Safari Club, and he would go on all afternoon talking about the Safari Club. And anytime my attention would, go away from him, he'd pull me back to listen to more stories about the Safari Club. We had people like that all the time. And I met Ed flying into our village as well. I mean, it continues today that most pilots kind of need a place in a village to know that you can go when you're waiting for your passengers, or where you have a few hours of downtime. And so they were always welcome at our house for coffee or tea or cookies or whatever.
So I'm gonna stop you there because we've run out of time, but I want to get you on next time. And what I want to do is tie this together with some of your thoughts on aviation safety and attitudes of pilots and passengers. Mm-hmm. So if I can get you back next time, we'll continue the story.
Okay.
Thanks, Robin. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. And until next week, fly safe.
Welcome back. Well, winds 20 knots or less along the entire coastline tomorrow. Lighter, more variable over the inside waters, leading to persistent areas of low clouds and fog. And then it looks like on Sunday, a little more northeasterly, maybe up to 20, 22 knots here, Lincoln on Glacier Bay. Otherwise, northeast to easterlies 10 to 15. More of an offshore flow for the coastline, 15 to 20 knots. And then for the North Gulf Coast, easterlies 30 knots, some gales again, Barren Islands, otherwise small craft advisories here for most areas around Kodiak Island. And the Cook Inlet area, northeast up to 20, lighter winds, more northerlies north of the Forelands. And for Sunday, 20 knots coming up to about small craft advisory levels here south of the Forelands, and easterlies at 25 for the Barren Islands. And then small craft advisories here for the North Gulf Coast, right down the east side of Kodiak Island. For the Bristol Bay zone, northeast 30, looks like gale force winds everywhere else, so northeasterlies here across the peninsula, easterlies southwest of Kodiak. For the outlook for Sunday, gales back into Bristol Bay there, and also for the Alaska Peninsula areas, looks like 25 knot winds. So going out to the Aleutians, full gales here for the eastern Aleutians, at least on the southern areas, and then small craft advisories Northwest, 20 to 30 knots in the central areas, and then lighter winds out to the west. Those light winds continue here through Sunday, becoming northwest 25 and then back up to 35 to 40 knots across the eastern Aleutians. For the Bering Sea areas, northwest 25 for the Pribilofs, west 25 for the northern Bering, and looks like some small craft advisory southerlies tomorrow there along the coast up across St. Lawrence Island, northeast 30 there coming out of Bristol Bay, out of Kuskokwim Bay. And for the Sunday outlook, brisk wind advisories here around St. Lawrence Island, easterlies 25 knots, northeast over the northern Bering Sea, and then looks like gales here south of Nunivak Island, southeasterlies back up to 35 knots, but closer into the low center, looks like light winds for the Pribilofs. Arctic coast, east 20 to 30 knots there. Strongest winds will be on the east side here, lighter out to the west, and then those winds, a little bit of an increase over what you'll see on Saturday here, but not much, just 15 to 20 knots generally from the east or east-northeast for the west side, and then kind of a variable wind condition, mostly east-northeast, 20 to 25 on the east side. For tonight, again, some freezing rain lingering here along the Brooks Range, and snow with winter weather advisories back along the Arctic coast up there, drying out here over the interior. This next band getting pushed back up into southern Alaska, rain Kodiak Island this evening, spreading up areas of heaviest, of course, western Prince William Sound, southern Kenai Peninsula, lighter amounts, Kenai to Anchorage on up to Palmer. Dense fog in areas along the southeast coast, and for tomorrow, wet here, Kodiak still, but tending to dry out a little bit, higher pressure over the eastern interior, and then this front pushing out to the west coast. And then on Sunday, it looks like this mass of moisture actually coming up tomorrow night, spreading rain up to the North Gulf Coast later tomorrow night, continuing through Sunday. So with a frontal boundary right across northern Cook Inlet and some moisture and gusty winds, mild temperatures continuing here over the southwest interior. Pretty dry with some areas of low clouds and fog over the eastern interior and the southeast coast. Have a great weekend.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.